We are going to call to order this hearing today. It is about 1 minute, 1:05 on April 20th, 2015. We're in room 500 of the John A. Wilson Building, and I'm calling to order this hearing of the Committee on Education. I'm David Grosso, the chairman of the Committee on Education, and today's hearing is for budget oversight of the Deputy Mayor for Education and the D.C. Public Libraries. Today we will begin with the Deputy Mayors, and then we'll move to the Public Library. The Deputy Mayor for Education is responsible for developing and implementing the Mayor's vision for academic agenda and is responsible for creating a high-quality education continuum from early childhood through K-12 and on to a child's post-secondary and workforce success. The Deputy Mayor for Education oversees a district-wide education strategy, manages interagency and cross-sector education coordination, and provides oversight and support for the D.C. Public Libraries, D.C. Public Schools, the Office of the State Superintendent for Education, the Public Charter School Board, and the University of the District of Columbia. After we hear from the Deputy Mayor, we will hear from the D.C. Public Libraries. Before I call up the first panel of witnesses and then the Deputy Mayor for Education, I'd like to recognize that I've been joined by my colleague from Ward 6, Charles Allen, and I'd like to recognize him if he has an opening statement.
I appreciate, Mr. Chair, don't have an opening statement, just appreciate your leadership in pulling this together and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go down the list. Witnesses have, in this hearing, I think you get 3 minutes if you're an individual, 5 minutes if you're an organization. But I'll put everybody on notice that on Thursday, you only get 3 minutes, no matter who you represent or where you come from. So it changes when you have over 100 witnesses. You kind of get to limit things. So today, we're going to first hear from Robert Kane, Executive Director of Focus. I don't see Mr. Kane in the room. Alex Pierman, I see him. Policy and Advocacy Associate for D.C. Lawyers for Youth. Vanessa Bertelli. Don't see Vanessa in the room, but she's a D.C. Language Immersion Project. Bethany Henderson, Executive Director of D.C. Scores. Come on up. Bethany Henderson, Executive. I was like, I see you over there. Just come on up. Monday Cromwell, a parent from D.C. Scores. Monday Cromwell. Oh, how you doing, sir? Thanks for being here. Andrea Custis, then the board member from D.C. Scores. Thanks for being here. All right, we got D.C. Scores representing one of my favorite organizations. Let's start with Mr. Pierman. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Pierman.
Good afternoon, Chairman Grosso and members of the Committee on Education. My name is Alex Pierman, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Associate at D.C. Lawyers for Youth, a research, advocacy, and direct service organization that seeks to improve D.C.'s youth justice system. Thank you for the opportunity to testify at the budget oversight overhearing for the Deputy Mayor for Education. As youth advocates, we want the best outcomes for D.C. children, and being engaged in and successful at school places youth on the path to productive adulthood. My testimony today will focus on the DME's role as co-chair of the Truancy Task Force and funding for services to promote school attendance. D.C. Lawyers for Youth is concerned that lowering the threshold of unexcused absences required for family court referral has increased the number of D.C. youth exposed to counterproductive court interactions. We ask the committee to ensure that the DME has adequate resources to effectively fulfill its role as coordinator of the city's attendance-promoting efforts. As D.C. Lawyers for Youth has testified before, the number of new family court complaints based on an allegation that a youth is a person in need of supervision nearly doubled from 2012 to 2013. In that same year, the family court received approximately 750 referrals that were returned to schools due to failure to demonstrate efforts to intervene and abate the truancy. 2014 was the first full calendar year in which the lower threshold was in effect, so it's critical that the DME and this committee have the opportunity to review data from that year. Unfortunately, the Family Court has not yet published its annual report, and this is now later than it has been in previous years. The unavailability of this information is just another example of how problematic it is for the district to not have oversight of its own court system. An increasing number of referrals, if that were what the data showed, would be concerning because family court has neither the capacity nor the appropriate tools to address the root causes of truancy for every student who accumulates 15 unexcused absences. Last school year, there were 4,713 students eligible for court referral. If all those students had been referred to court, as the law requires, then the overall size of the juvenile court system would more than double. This would be enormously unwise given the overall lack of evidence that court-based responsive are respective, finding that court referral can harm low-risk youth, and the fact that the family court fundamentally lacks the ability to provide services that would address issues like academic failure, lack of transportation, child care responsibilities, poor school climate, health problems, or any of the many other attendance barriers that DC students face. This lack of capacity is part of the reason that the DME's role in coordinating alternative programs and system of care is so critical. If we want to increase attendance and do not want to put the whole burden on school staff or the courts, smart planning and additional resources will be necessary to create alternative programs. The two currently existing service-based pro-attendance programs are the Justice Grants Administration's Show Up Stand Out program and the Department of Human Services Parent and Adolescent Support Services. The mayor's proposed budget actually seems to reduce capacity for Show Up Stand Out. The year-to-year figures are somewhat difficult to compare because JGA has been subsumed into the newly created Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants. However, while SUSO served 11 schools in fiscal year 2014, the proposed budget only projects it serving 8 schools in FY 2016. Given the magnitude of DC's school engagement problems, this seems to be movement in the wrong direction. The mayor's proposed budget does show an increase for PASS, including 1 new full-time equivalent position. This is a welcome change as the majority of chronically truant students are in the high school grades that PASS serves. However, we remain uncertain about whether PASS can effectively scale to address the magnitude of the need. There are thousands of high school students at risk of court referral, while only hundreds are served by PASS. 1 additional FTE seems unlikely to close this gap. Truancy is an incredibly complex issue, and the DME has an important role as co-chair of the Truancy Task Force. In general, DC Lawyers for Youth would like to see the FY 2016 budget make a larger commitment to promoting school attendance through positive supports. The two most straightforward ways to do so would be to increase funding for SUSO in the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants, and to increase funding at the DME for strategic planning, oversight, and evaluation of these programs. Such work is sorely needed in the district, and we are hopeful that the new DME will make meaningful progress in this area. In closing, I want to thank the committee for its commitment to student achievement and its interest in school engagement issues. We hope to work with you on these recommendations and future efforts to ensure that every student is in school every day. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pearman. Ms. Henderson.
My name is Bethany Rubin Henderson, and I am Executive Director of DC Scores, a 21-year-old nonprofit providing year-round, team-based, expanded learning opportunities to more than 1,500 3rd through 8th graders each year at between 40 and 50 DC public and public charter schools in neighborhoods throughout the district characterized by entrenched poverty. We're one of the largest nonprofit youth development organizations in the district and have worked with over 8,000 students since our founding in 1994, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. DC Scores remediates in a school-based setting the many very real impacts of a life of poverty on a child, a lack of extracurricular enrichment, adult mentors, and fitness opportunities. Our diverse participants are 56% African American, 40% Hispanic, 2% Asian, and 2% white or other ethnicities. Approximately 80% receive free or reduced lunch. Our innovative model combines poetry, soccer, and service learning, delivered through after-school programs and summer camps. And what's truly unique about our programming is it's not individual or a la carte. Every child together participates in all aspects of our programming. So students who join just to play soccer end up on a stage reciting poetry that they've written themselves. Students drawn in by community service end up scoring their first goal, learning that they too can be part of an athletic team, with the same team of kids encouraging and supporting them along the way. Together, they develop grit, resilience, and executive function. Together, they create deep connections to their school and community. Together, they become physically fit. They find their voice. Together, they practice teamwork, leadership, and commitment. Skills and habits proven to be critical to success in school and in life. Now, our whole child approach is pretty unique in the DC youth development space. Attending to multiple modalities of arts, academics, and athletics is not the norm for after-school programming, and our model has been adopted by the DCPS out-of-school time office as the model for optimal student programming. Our work not only directly complements student school day experiences, but it also fills critical gaps. To give you a sense of the breadth and depth of our impact on the community, each school year we provide roughly 315,000 hours of programming to DC's most vulnerable children, free of charge to them and their families. Each week, every student participates in 270 extra minutes of physical activity, 6 times what they get during the school day. Each week, every student receives an extra 150 minutes of writing instruction and academic support, critical for literacy development. This fall, 2014 alone, DC Scores participants collectively wrote 14,710 original poems. This is 3rd through 8th graders. This spring, they are designing and will complete 44 service learning projects benefiting their local communities and teaching them that they too can affect the world around them. Each year, we also employ part-time close to 200 teachers, support staff, and community members to coach our students, and we train all of these adults, not just in our curriculum, but also in positive youth development. And last year alone, we engaged over 150 high school-age DC Scores alumni, many of whom volunteer, referee, or assistant coach with our elementary and middle school teams, and many of whom do the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program at our summer camps. As a result, our participants feel more connected to their schools, more comfortable with and interested in writing, and more confident that they will graduate high school. Now, we achieve these results at the rough cost of $800 to $1,000 a child with a small team of only 12 full-time staff. Notably, we are not meeting the need for our services in the district. We have a wait list that's going on 10 schools deep and growing, and at many of our schools, we have a wait list of children wanting to join our teams. We are deeply grateful for our collaborations with several city agencies, including the DCPS Out-of-School Time Office, the DC Trust, and the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. The total cash funding we receive from city sources, including the DC Trust, comprises just about under 13% of our budget. Our program also relies on school facilities, classrooms, and fields being accessible until 6 p.m. daily. And this past year, we were able to leverage that support from the district to bring an additional $1.65 million in private funding into the city to serve these publicly educated low-income students. The proposed cuts in the budget to the DCPS Out-of-School Time Office, to after-school funding in general, and the DC Trust will make it extremely difficult for DC Scores to continue serving all the children that we do. And for DC Scores, the challenges posed by this proposed budget are exacerbated by the fact that this fall we had a sudden and unanticipated loss of a substantial amount of federal pass-through dollars, comprising 15% of our FY15 budget, after the city apparently directed the funding agency to redirect those dollars away from youth development towards chronically unemployed adults. So we urge you to consider the dire impacts of the proposed budget on after-school providers like DC Scores, and we are ready to work closely with all of you, with the Mayor's Office and city agencies, to ensure that DC Scores and other after-school providers like us can continue to serve all of the children throughout the district who need us and rely on us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cromwell?
Hello, my name is Monday Cromwell. I live in Ward 7. My child participated in DC Scores at the Arts and Technology Academy in Ward 7. DC Scores has been more so of, it opened up my son, who was shy, afraid, was unsure about what he wanted to do with his life. It gave him a spark, if I could say that. Trying to reach my child through various activities as far as basketball and football, that was just not, he just couldn't do it. DC Scores gave him that option, that there's something else. He took a love for writing, he took a love for soccer, and just ran with it. I couldn't have been more proud, happy, just as a parent. If I could just, it's like, I wish it was in every school, but it's not. He's in middle school right now. He misses DC Scores, misses the friendships that he's made, and right now he's still trying to find his voice. DC Scores gave him that reassurance that, guess what, you're here and you do matter. A lot of these children in Ward 7 and other wards throughout the in the DC area, they're not basketball players, they're not football players. And I say that because so much is geared to those playing basketball and football, endorsement deals. Hell, if I'd have known that poetry could have done something to the point, I probably have my own show right now had it been DC Scores in my time. But to see my son shine the way he has, there's no word for it. especially coming from a parent, because you want your child to grow. I want you to surpass me. And just to give you just a brief summary of what he's written. It says, and this is his own words, I excel every test I've ever taken. I pass, never fail. My parents are saving money for college, not bail. I want to thank DC Scores for giving me a platform to display my art form. I'm a poet, professional, orator, experienced technician. On a mission to stay persistent and to be a man of distinction, to never give up. Failure is a possibility, but not for me, because I'm going to rise to the top. Like the songs say, let my words play. I'm only 11. I got a world to save. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trying the evil to do a shredder. DC Scores needs to be here. And that's all I can say. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Wow,
Ms.
I don't know if I can follow that.
Custis, yeah, good luck.
Really, good luck, Andrea. Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Custis. I'm a former executive at Verizon Communications and a former member of the Board of Directors of Verizon Communications in Washington, D.C. I'm now owning and running my own business called Custis & Associates. I want to thank each of you for giving us an opportunity to testify in front of you. I also serve on the board of DC Scores, an award-winning youth development organization that uses the modalities of soccer, poetry, and self-learning delivered through team-based, school-based after-school programs and summer camps to instill self-expression, physical fitness, and a sense of community in DC's most vulnerable 3rd through 8th graders. I got involved with DC because I wanted to be part of an amazing organization that truly changes the lives of young African American and Hispanic children. I am so proud and grateful for DC Scores because the children who participate in the program, like we heard about Xavier, are healthy, they are intelligent, and they give back to their communities. DC Scores gives these children an outlet for their natural talents. It helps children develop healthy, lifelong habits and lets our children shine. Most importantly, our children have great dreams. And being part of DC Scores, it really teaches and proves to them that through hard work and education, they can make anything happen. I have seen that, and I simply say, wow. As a member of this community and a board member of DC Scores, I am deeply troubled by the direction of public funding away from after-school programs such as ours. Study after study continually show that after-school programming is essential to a child's development, that it improves the kids' academic, their social and emotional and physical fitness outcomes. It reduces very risky behaviors, and it increases kids' engagement with and attendance at school. I applaud DCPS's efforts to improve the school day experience, but I worry that extended day alone is not enough for our kids or their working parents. Where extended day programs end at around 4:15, DC Score programming runs much later. We provide kids an extra 90 minutes of academic or physical fitness enrichment daily. As a working parent myself, I know firsthand how important it is for young kids to have a safe, nurturing, and supervised environment until the end of the workday. DC Scores provides that, and so much more to our children and their families. And we do it free of charge to our students, so that our programs are accessible to every family, no matter what their income. This fall, DC Scores experienced a sudden and unexpected setback in our ability to meet the needs of DC's kids and their families. Nearly $400,000 of federal pass-through dollars that we had anticipated receiving this fiscal year evaporated with no warning when the funding agency, 6 weeks into our fiscal year and in the midst of the launch of our fall program season, informed us that money was suddenly being directed away from youth development to chronically unemployed adults. The lost funds comprise 15% of our planned fiscal year 2015 budget, a significant blow to our organization of our size. The proposed cuts to the out-of-school time office, the DC Trust, and after-school funding in general in the district's 2016 budget will make it even harder for DC schools to continue meeting the needs of our current 1,500 kids and families like the Cromwells next year and beyond, much less grow to meet the needs of the many families in schools on our wait list. I urge you to consider the effects of the proposed budget, not just on our out-of-school program like DC Scores, but on the children we serve and on the parents who rely on us being there so that they can work a full day and provide for their families. Thank you for listening, and on behalf of all of our families, we thank you for the service you do every day. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Before I proceed with questions, I want to recognize that we've been joined by the Ward 7 Councilmember Yvette Alexander, and ask her if she has any opening statement that she'd like to offer.
Thank you, Councilmember Grosso. I just wanted to not really have an opening statement, but just wanted to welcome you all for coming to testify. I was looking in between meetings and I saw a Ward 7 parent, Ward 7 father has come to testify, and I know you've taken time out of your busy day. So we realize how important that after school programs, I've been blown up on Twitter, so I know, and I also have the trust, which falls under my committee purview, and I know a lot of, well, all of my agencies, it seems, have taken a hit. Our task is going to try to find sufficient funding so that, important programs like DC Scores, I know them well, and I know the outcomes can continue. I definitely wanted to add that in Ward 7 too, and I know DC Scores, and we want to keep DC Scores up and running. There are other wonderful things that, young people can do in Ward 7, and we want them to participate across the board, as you said, not just basketball or football, or what have you, but we have a wonderful tennis center, ice skating rink, baseball academy, swimming pools. So take advantage of everything. But Councilmember Grosso, I really hope that we can work out something to continue this great program and so many other after-school programs. Our children's well-being is more than just their academic curriculum in the course of the day. It's a well-rounded student with those extracurricular activities too, and after-school programs definitely, they definitely determine a lot of positive outcomes with our young people. So thank you all for coming in to testify. I look forward to our Deputy Mayor of Education and our libraries as well. And libraries have our DC libraries have some very important after-school programs a lot of times too. So my questions will be focused with some of your concerns in mind. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alexander. I just have a couple of thoughts on this. I want to say first how you guys might not see this, but you're really connected to what Mr. Pearman is talking about and the work that you do around attendance in the schools. I remember when I first heard about DC Scores and met with you guys when I first came into office a few years ago, that was the main crux of it, was that these children had to attend school every day in order to be engaged in the after-school program. And I thought, well, that intrigued me. And then when I got deeper into it, and I said, well, they're not just doing an athletic program, but they're offering children who have some other passion to engage, in this case, writing and poetry and the spoken word. And so I've actually been out to the tournaments, and I've been to the poetry slams, and it just blows my mind. I mean, these are kids that you would think are, like you said, maybe a little bit to themselves, a little bit quiet, a little bit different track in life, who then step up and are like on stage performing in front of hundreds of people, running around, leading the soccer team, engaging in ways that are amazing. The thing that really bothers me, the proposed cuts to after school, we can figure that out, and I know we can do that, and myself, along with Councilmember Alexander and others, are committed to making sure that happens. The bigger question I have is the loss of the federal pass-through dollars, and I know the deputy mayor is here, and so I'm going to ask her when she comes up, but I don't expect her to know the answer right now, but to just look into it, to understand what's happening with this and why that would be. I do not support and never will support pitting one important issue against another important issue like adult employment or adult education, workforce development against the programs that are so important to our youth developing and engaging in community to the fullest extent. So we will be asking about that. So I thank you for bringing that to our to the hearing today. Extremely important, and we will continue down the path of finding out what's going on there and see if we can help out. Short of that, we don't give out direct grants anymore. The DC government. If I did, I would give you guys some money, but I don't do that. And, I did it when I was a staffer years ago, but now we changed that policy. So if there's any organization that's worthy of such an investment, you guys are, and so we need to make sure we get behind it and engage in it. And I'd like to see it go further up into the middle schools too. I know you're in a couple or tried to be in a couple over the years, and that continuation of such a program that really empowers children is amazing. And middle school is probably where you need it the most. These children in elementary school, they'll run after a little ball all day. But if you put them in middle school, it's a different engagement and a different process, and it would be good to see it there as well. So I want to thank you all for coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate, obviously, the work that DC Lorders for Youth does, and we've been engaging in this conversation for a few years now. I have some questions for the Deputy Mayor around truancy, around attendance issues, especially around, what's going on with the task force, how can we move it forward, and how can we make sure that the government is fully engaged in this effort. You mentioned two particular areas where you thought there was a need for more funding, and, I really appreciate Show Up, Stand Out, and really think that work is amazing. I don't know, I didn't realize that it had been put in under a different entity, and I don't know what the impact, if any, that'll be. They're still reporting as an independent entity, so that's an interesting question. We'll ask about that. And then also just getting more money in there for their program. You're right, it could be in more schools and be very effective, and coordinating better with community schools and other entities the way that they do. So we'll ask her about that. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to the witness list now. We have Leo Casey, Executive Director of the Albert Shanker Institute, and David Jonas Barden, DC resident, and Vanessa Bertelli, DC Language Immersion Project.